Lady Vecthra Syl of House Syl had purchased many things in her long life. Starships, estates on 3 worlds, a vineyard on a moon where the wine grew itself in singing vines. But she had never purchased a human before, because you cannot purchase a human. You can only hire one, and pray he shows up. Her assistant, a nervous little thrall named Pull, had submitted the request through 17 layers of bureaucracy, because Lady Vecthra had made enemies. Powerful ones. Rival houses who sent assassins wrapped in diplomatic immunity. And after her 3rd bodyguard resigned, the 2nd one quietly, the 1st one screaming, Pull had suggested something radical. "Hire a human, my lady." "A human," she'd said, the word foreign in her mouth. "Aren't they fragile? I've seen the biological reports. Soft skin, slow reflexes for a predator species. Practically domesticated." "Yes, my lady. That's what everyone says." She should have asked why everyone kept saying it with that particular nervous tremor in their voice. He arrived on a supply shuttle, unannounced, carrying a single duffel bag and wearing a jacket that had clearly survived worse days than this one. "Marcus Reyes," he said, extending a hand. "You're the client?" Lady Vecthra studied him. Unremarkable by galactic standards. No visible weapons. No armor plating. Just a tired-looking man with quiet eyes and calluses on his knuckles. "You don't look like much," she said, testing him. He almost smiled. "Neither does a landmine." She didn't understand the reference. She would eventually. The other staff treated him with polite, distant curiosity, the way one treats an animal that has learned to wear clothes. The Farrakhan estate manager called him the pet behind closed doors, not realizing human hearing, while duller than a Farrakhan's, was sharp enough to catch cruelty from across a room. Marcus said nothing. He simply did his job. Walked the perimeter, checked the sight lines, memorized every exit before he'd even memorized the layout of his own quarters. "He barely speaks," Pull reported. "He watches everything. He sleeps 4 hours a night. Is that normal for humans?" "I have no idea," Lady Vecthra admitted. "I've never actually met one before this." Neither, it seemed, had most of the galaxy, not really. Humanity was new to the wider stars, barely a generation into contact. What the galaxy knew of humans came from trade reports and diplomatic footage. Smiling, cooperative, remarkably unthreatening. No one had bothered asking where the humans came from. Marcus came from Earth. Specifically, from a stretch of jungle where the plants had thorns that injected neurotoxin, where the apex predator wasn't even the biggest animal in the food chain, and where his own species had spent 200,000 years learning that the softest, weakest-looking creature in the room was often the... Nobody warned Lady Vecthra about that. Nobody warned her he came from a Deathworld. The attack came on the 9th night, during the Concord Gala. A glittering affair of 1,000 guests, spun glass chandeliers, and Hausfrau's assassins moving through the crowd like smoke. There were 4 of them. Trained killers, augmented reflexes, weapons disguised as jewelry. Lady Vecthra felt the first stirring of danger only as a prickle on her neck, and by the time she turned, Marcus was already moving. He didn't shout. He didn't hesitate. He crossed 12 meters of ballroom floor in under 3 seconds, put himself between her and the first assassin's blade, and did something none of the guests had ever seen a human do. He fought back. Not with weapons, there'd been no time to draw one. With his hands. With brutal, terrible efficiency that came from a species that had, for its entire existence, refused to accept being prey. The first assassin went down with a broken wrist before he understood what had happened. The second lunged and found Marcus already gone, already behind him, already ending the fight before it began. "He's smiling," one horrified guest whispered. He wasn't smiling with joy. He was smiling the way a man smiles when the fear finally has somewhere to go. The third assassin fired. Marcus took the shot in the shoulder without breaking stride, wrapped Lady Vecthra in his good arm, and put his own body between her and the weapon again and again, absorbing what should have killed a fragile creature 3 times over. "Why?" she gasped. "Why are you still standing?" "Because you're not dead yet," he said simply. "That's the job." The fourth assassin, watching his companions fall in under a minute, chose to run. Marcus let him go. Killing wasn't the point. Living and making sure she lived was the point. Later, in the medical bay, as automated systems knitted his shoulder back together, Lady Vecthera sat beside him in silence for a long time. "The reports called your species unthreatening," she finally said. "We're not threatening," Marcus replied. "Not unless you threaten something we love. Then we're the worst thing that ever crawled out of a swamp. You could have died protecting me. I'm not your family. I'm not even your species." He considered that. "Doesn't matter. You hired me to keep you alive. On my world, that's a promise older than written language. We don't break it just because it's inconvenient or fatal." She thought of her 3 previous bodyguards, trained soldiers from proud warrior cultures who had fled or frozen. And she thought of this one man, from a world so hostile that simply surviving childhood was considered an accomplishment, who had walked into gunfire without flinching because he'd given his word. "What is your homeworld like?" she asked quietly. "Truly." Marcus looked at the ceiling, remembering thorns and storms and things with too many teeth. "It's the kind of place," he said, "that either kills you or teaches you that nothing else ever will." Word spread through the Concord in the weeks that followed, not through official reports, but through whispers, the way the most important truths always travel. The soft-skinned species isn't soft at all. They're not passengers in the food chain. They're the reason the food chain has rules. They didn't evolve to be safe. They evolved to make everything around them unsafe for anyone who threatened what they loved. Lady Vecthera kept Marcus Reyes as her bodyguard for the rest of her life, and told anyone who asked the same thing. "I hired a human because I needed protection. I didn't understand until the night it mattered that I hadn't hired a guard at all. I had hired a promise, wearing a man's shape, forged on a world that never once let him forget what it costs to keep one." And for the first time the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars.